I wanted to welcome you, everybody, and to thank EULAR for the organization of that meeting. The EULAR course is now a 10-year history, and at the beginning, in 2004 or 2006, the first course was launched. There were only 200 students the first year. Not too bad. Now, there are more than 2,000 per year. More than 2,000 students per year. And you are involved in that process. It's an exciting process. So thank you for the junior who are coming today. Who is junior today? Want to see? Junior, 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 less junior, junior, less junior. Okay, so good. And you are here because the conveners have decided, have chosen you to be here today. Normally, I think there are around how many juniors in total in our courses? About 100. So we are only 25 today, but it's the first course. I think next year everybody will want to be here. So you are here for the first time. And what I have to say is during that process of 10 years, we did a lot to improve the course, to improve the update, but our weakness was the assessment questions. Two weaknesses, the number of assessment questions and the quality of assessment questions. Now, progressively, we have enough questions, but we have to improve the quality of the questions. And during our last meeting in February in Paris, Jose and Catherine, Jose, a convener, and a friend of us for 10 years, and Catherine is educationalist and professor in education, expert in education in Nottingham. So we are very lucky to have her with us today. And together, I think this will be an exciting meeting to improve all the assessment questions. So I hand over to Catherine. Thank you, everybody. And thank you to the convener also to be there. And thank you to Gabriela, who has everything organized here. Yeah. And I think it's also an opportunity to you to see your convener and have a discussion during this debate.
So well done to everybody for getting here, including some people who've been stranded at airports and some people who have been exploring transport systems to get here. Hands up people who know someone else in the room already and you've already sort of been able to work with them face to face before. Hands up who have worked with other people in the room. So some, but not all. And significantly, I think some junior colleagues joining us, junior in this context. This may be the first time that you've had the opportunity to spend some time with colleagues. And so I wanted to start by introducing an overview of how we propose to spend our time, our precious 26 hours, and the clock has just started now, to help to invest in you and to enhance your ability to work across Europe, mostly virtually, for most of the year in order to achieve this very complex and demanding task. Because this photograph I actually took last year outside some exams that were taking place in the University of Oxford. And I'll let you into a secret. The University of Oxford has problems with the quality and the quantity of its assessments. Certainly the University of Nottingham has some challenges with the quality and the quantity of its assessments. Everybody is challenged by the complexity of assessments. But what we all have is an aspiration to deliver equitable, fair, and as effective assessment as we possibly can. Because obviously, this is healthcare which is at stake. And so, in fact, we are held to the highest possible levels of accountability for our assessments. And there is quite a bit of science, there is quite a bit of techniques that we need to become familiar with. And there's also a little artistry, and it's the art of being an expert, and it's an art of being able to spend time identifying, discussing, and coming to experienced judgment about how we are going to operate assessment. And so that's why it's so important for us to spend time in a room. You've got your glasses back now, Eric. In order to build those working relationships and in order to identify and perhaps clarify some of those issues, because some of these things are challenging. They're not straightforward. And so we need to have our wits about us. So our overall aim then was to equip authors and conveners with the expertise and time which is necessary to work together to improve our existing question banks and also to develop future effective assessment. So it's necessary to achieve that aim. We've tried to gather together expertise. So we have colleagues here from EULAR who've got many years of experience in trying to deliver and assess assessment now. We have our conveners, we have experienced authors, and we have some junior authors. I'm here to offer some educational guidance and guidelines to help you in that process. And we've also got 26 hours, as I mentioned, to work together face to face. And what we're also doing is being video recorded so that absent friends can also participate, even though they're not able to come here today. But don't worry, your private one-to-one discussions will not be recorded, but the things which made sense that we thought would be very useful to have. And also tomorrow, in the final session, a sort of brief report from each of the groupings. Those will all be recorded together with all of the materials and things that we've used, so that hopefully your colleagues who were not able to be here will be motivated to watch every thrilling minute and to ask you questions about what happened so that they can get up to speed with the rest of you. So that means that although this is a weekend and although we are in lovely Prague, there is structured into the programme time where it's actually over to you. We have provided the expertise, support, guidance, set you a challenging task, and then it's up to you in your individual course groupings to see what your situation is and how you can move things forward. So I just want to run through and introduce the outline of what's going to happen, just so that you are both alerted, but also reassured of what is going to happen. So we're in this section here where we are trying to ensure that you are welcomed and appreciated for your role within EULAR, because we know it is such an important and difficult task to fit into your many other responsibilities, I'm sure. And we're also going to make sure you have time to network with your colleagues, including having a fine dinner and discussing with each other. So from 8 p.m. this evening, 2000 hours, we have a little bit of unstructured time to have a nice dinner and talk together. However, before we reach that magic time, we have other things to do. We will be shortly reviewing the whole EULAR process and the document management system to help you find your way around that. In between, you'll be discussing your role with EULAR, the author guidelines and various documentation and support available. And we also hope that you will become more familiar with the authoring tool, which 2 years ago was a major innovation with EULAR to help structure this complex process. These are the bits that I'm going to lead you through, providing specific educational input to help you. I want to make sure we're thinking about what current experience you have in assessment and objective assessment, because I'm sure we'll have a variety of experience in the room. I'm going to specifically go through the range of questions, types, and things which are used in assessment, and I'm going to give you clear guidance and a strong steer towards things that have been found to be very important for assessment, such as having things in a clinical context. And this has led me to produce a checklist of guidance for making sure that you can look at the quality of your questions and make sure that we are eradicating as many of the straightforward problems as we can. So I'm going to give you a sample of genuine, real questions contributed by you and your fellows over the last couple of years. I'll give you a checklist and ask you to work together to try and identify how you would improve those questions. So this is just to work to practice applying these ideas to real questions. Because then I want you to move on to work in groups with your convener to look at your actual questions. So armed with this input and a checklist and a chance to discuss with your colleagues, what do you have right now? How could you enhance them straight away? And how could you identify where you might need to develop some more questions? And then tomorrow I will be running through with you a systematic way to help you cover the whole of the curriculum and sample effectively, and also to produce and generate questions at the appropriate cognitive level. And I think it should help you to generate questions more quickly. So this is where you will be working hard, reviewing your assessment bank, improving your questions, and getting ready for, before you're allowed home, to report on what your plans are and also what you need from EULAR, how we could help and support this process in the future, each of those items. So here's how it translates into time. We'll be looking at the EULAR system and your role and the opportunity to ask questions and identify those aspects in this first session. Modest coffee break opportunity. And then that's when I will be at 16:30 to 18:30. That's when I will be going through some of those assessment topics and sharing the checklist with you and asking you to try them out on some questions. And then I have some answers with some suggested improvements that I would recommend for you to make sure we've covered that ground to prepare you to have another modest comfort break, to spend a little bit of time before dinner spread out into a number of rooms in small groups with your convener to identify and take stock of where you are now and how you might work to improve the questions you have. Tomorrow, I was told an early start would be absolutely possible in order to fit everything in. And so that's a chance to continue to work on your question bank. And what we have been considering is giving you a little bit of input a bit earlier about generating new questions so that you have chance to work in your smaller groups to generate some more questions together before. So we have a whole morning to move things forward before lunchtime, and then one last time to work with groups to identify what is going to be your plan for how to take things forward. And then we will all come back together to a group here to compare what the plans are for different courses. We summarise things, evaluate, work out, ask you what's been useful, what's valuable, what things you'd like in future, what things you'd like to never do again. And then 3 p.m, you're free to go. So I hope that has some relation to what you thought was in store for you, and that there's nothing there about which you feel too perturbed. But obviously, any questions or at any time, do come and ask. Is there anything anybody wants to ask about the sort of arrangements of that so far? I suppose, I don't know, where do we go for dinner? Just to focus on the social aspect for a moment.
They're not leaving the hotel, it's going to be down here by the reception area, and that's going to be nice.
Lovely. So everything being looked after. So I'm able to now hand over to the team from EULAR, really, from Gabriella and Eric, to talk about working with the overall system for authors and how you can play your part in that complex task. Okay, thank you.